Give me a little history here. So you're the owner of Campground Coffee. You've been in logistics and you've worked both in the corporate, small business. You've got some marketing background. Give me a rundown of some of your history, who you are and what you do.
So kind of going way back, I started working in radio when I was young, and I kind of fell in love with the promotion side of radio as I watched other promotions directors in the radio world. So I started working down that avenue. That took me into the promotions and mobile event experiential marketing field for about 20 or 30 years. Everything from being in the field to being behind the desk to managing people who were in the field. So that was a big bulk. That's the logistics side you talked about a minute ago, but it really coupled with marketing and experiential. I know you've been involved in some of that. You know, it really touches on a lot of different avenues, because with concentric circles and the things that you try to do, you try to tag the social media, the branding with like surrounding billboards or signage, and then bring everything together with an event. So it's kind of everything in one. And then we would always have some sort of mobile aspect as well. So whether it be a truck, trailer, or combination of, that was branded and opened up and created an experience to actually interact with consumers as well. So, you know, it really does kind of entail some degree all the different areas of the marketing world. And in some cases would bring in other mediums as well, but not too often. And then that's kind of how we ended up here. We were looking for a brick and mortar spot to do a coffee shop for years, my wife and I, and just never panned out. And we drove by a small camper selling cookies, and it had a little tagline outside it that said the Cookie Camper. That wasn't the business name, but it was like their little tagline. And I said, why not a coffee camper that people can actually come inside, not just a little tiny camper like this Cookie Camper, but an actual standalone coffee shop built out of a RV camper. So around here, campers and the camping life is a really big deal. We're real close to the mountains in North Carolina. So it's really kind of a fun niche. I kind of joke that we've got the two sides. You've got the folks who come in and think it's cute and neat, and they wouldn't necessarily camp themselves, but they like the niche of it. And then you've got the people who literally come in all the time and say, we live in campers. We travel all the time in campers. And so, you know, we kind of have the connection for two completely different reasons, kind of that touristy fun feel, as well as the very literal people, you know, living in camper as well. So, and that's been neat. So that's kind of how this all developed and kind of how we ended up where we're at now.
And so you're from Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah, as I always joke, as much as anywhere else. And I lived about half my life there in Tulsa. So went to high school there, but outside of high school, actually, and a few years after, I spent the rest of the time in 9 other states. So I was born in Colorado Springs and grew up between Oklahoma and Texas with a little stint out in Oregon. And then after the age of 25, lived in about another 7 states, from Kentucky to Virginia to California to New Jersey, working in New York City, down in Florida. And so I've kind of ran the gamut. I joke that I've lived in all 4 corners and the middle of the U.S. So now we're in North Carolina.
Which one of the radio stations did you work with when you were here?
So it's K-Hits, I believe, still now, and it used to be K107. And then I also worked for I forget what station it's now. It's 102.3. It used to be Mix 102.3 back in the day. And then we also got to do a stint at AM 970 KCFO when we did an overnight program there. I worked with a good friend of mine there as well.
You were a DJ.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I DJ'd. And then when I
would you guys do that?
2.3.
Would I? Yeah, I would DJ.
You'd be a DJ?
Yeah, I'd be a DJ.
That'd be pretty cool.
If I had the technicals down.
No, you weren't the kind of DJ that was like the party DJ. Or,
I did a couple of parties, but not like the traditional like mixer or whatever. Like I did some of that. When I was doing the morning show for the R&B radio station at the time, Mix 102.3, I would get often requests to come do parties. Or I remember doing like a modeling show for some event. So I did a few of those kind of things, but it was few and far between, just kind of when the opportunities presented themselves, but I didn't go looking for them.
You didn't do any Coachella or
Tomorrowland?
No, nothing big, nothing crazy like that.
So one of the conversations that I was telling Maddie and Maria about you the other day, and I was like, we were talking about, does it get better when you start working with the corporate companies, like whether it's the corporate marketing agencies or like, corporate brands, and whether those are activations, whether they're digital campaigns, it doesn't matter. But like, we're talking about how like it really doesn't make too much a difference. They're a little bit more organized in some aspects. Like, okay, well, you have like the basic brand stuff that can help you build or deliver whatever it is, but the communication sometimes can be frustrating. But do you remember, would you agree? Let me ask you this. Would it be, man, how am I trying to phrase this? Like, what do you remember working in the corporate marketing world? Is there anything that stood out in that time frame?
I mean, the thing that I always say is, I think the biggest thing I always think back of as the negative was almost over. There was an over sense of need to say yes to every client, and not understand that clients come to you because you're the professional, and you have to trust them. Like, you think about right now, you would be amazed, and I know you've been around the coffee world enough to know, but like, I have tons of people who walk into my coffee shop, many of which have never been in, and they literally look at me and say, "Surprise me." They can tell, and they've heard, and they know that this is something I'm good at and that I enjoy doing. And I can often ask 3 questions and make you something that you're wowed by and enjoy and walk out with, that you've probably and very likely never had. People go to places, when they know that that's what they do, because it's what they do. Otherwise, they would do it themselves, right? And I think in the corporate world, one of the biggest problems is that gets lost and forgotten. That if they're coming to a corporate larger marketing agency, they're coming because they expect that you know how to market them better than everybody else, and better than themselves. And so when you just start saying yes to everything that they want, you start to lose that. And you also start to, a lot of times, oversell, underdeliver situations. And then eventually it deteriorates the quality of what you're able to provide. And I saw that a lot. And it also, it really hurt the employees at a lot of locations, because then you have employees who now get frustrated. They're having a hard time. They know they're not giving quality to what they're doing, and things. And you just saw that kind of running rampant. I have recently seen an old previous coworker of mine who's been working with a very large agency, and I don't seem to see that, but I wonder how much of that's just, it's not on the social media that I see. Maybe it's just behind closed doors, because I've really never been a part of any agency that didn't struggle with that to some degree. Even the best ones that were really great in so many areas seem to still struggle with that a little bit.
Like they always wanted to say yes, or felt like they had to.
Yeah, they feel like they absolutely have to. They're afraid to give up business to go somewhere else. And my philosophy has always been, let somebody go somewhere else and find out later that it doesn't work any better. That just because the other place does really great, even the first year, eventually they'll go through the same process with a few places and find out who really is the best, and find out who really stays with doing what's best for them. And I always felt like, and also this is the other thing, is being willing to admit when you mess up. Like, again, using my current situation, I've made mistakes. I had a situation here a while back, and I felt really bad about a really small mistake I made on a drink. I'm not even sure the person really would have made a big deal out of it, but I had their number in my system, so I shot a text with a $5 gift card for a free drink next time they came in. And it was just own it. Just own it. We don't really allow a lot of room in America, at least culture, to make mistakes and to be able to own our mistakes. But I had clients when I was managing accounts in New York that when I owned a mistake, I also told them how we were going to fix it. And I got a lot more respect from that than had I just tried to pretend like it never happened, skirted it, and just worked around it and act like nothing ever happened, or blamed it on somebody else or some other circumstance. When sometimes it was literally just, hey, we could have done better. And again, that's a lost, something that's lost in our corporate world, because everybody's just so scared to lose business.
Yeah, and that's actually something that there's a couple things in there that we've been talking about for quite some time. And one of them is trying to discuss our core values. And I think that comes down to one of them being accountability, right? That we were talking about. And the way that we would describe that is we hold ourselves responsible, never backing away from our commitments, and taking ownership of our actions with unwavering determination.
Yeah,
You know.
super important. And I think understanding you're never going to win every single client. You're not going to win every single client. You're not going to be the perfect fit for every single client. There are going to be some people who are going to come into my shop and they're just going to prefer a different place that provides something different. That's okay. I write, I've written a few books. And it's like I had somebody once, say they didn't like a book and I wasn't fazed by it. It didn't bother me. I didn't expect that every single person who picked up the book was going to enjoy it. That's okay. And again, that's why you have different agencies. That's why you have different coffee shops. That's why we have different books to read and different authors. It's the beauty of the gifting of different people doing these same jobs is that you find the right place who does it best for you, and you do the best for the clients that you're best for, and you don't stress over the ones that you lose. You continue to do the best for the ones you're there for and continue to look for the ones where you're the right fit. We continue to always say all right, we continue to kind of realize things that we don't need on a menu. On the drive here, I was literally thinking about a couple of teas that I'm about to pull off the menu because we just don't sell them. People don't come to us for that particular kind of drink. They go other places for it, and that's fine. But the demographic and the consumer base that we have, they come to us for something very unique and different than what they can get anywhere else. And learning that, if I feel like company and organization could better understand that, it would really allow them to succeed way more.
I feel like that's something that we constantly are trying to work on. That's something that Maddie and Marie would probably bring you guys in at this point too. Talk about this is like something that we've been trying to hone in on and that you just said was that you can't just have like a cookie cutter approach to everybody, and not every client's the same. So it's figuring out, for us in the marketing realm, for our clients, how we can help each client differently, how, maybe, this service is, I don't know, done differently for this client versus this client based on what they need, and not just saying, hey, this is the service, this is the price, take it or leave it type. It's really trying to conform it to that person, that client, that business. I mean, we
were talking if you were to apply that to something, it would be, okay, well, are we taking photos for a construction site, a job site, or is this like a retail, and what kind of retail? Is it just like, here's some t-shirts or whatever, I'm going to change out the t-shirts. You're going to take pictures of me in different t-shirts. Or is it like jewelry? Okay, well, jewelry requires a lot more keen attention to detail, right? So you're going to take more time shooting and editing and everything else too, right? Yeah, and we were also talking about this conversation started a few weeks ago. I think we do this about once a year to where we figure out, okay, what are our favorite industries to pertain to? Where do we really thrive, and where do we really, make the most impact? And then how can we create that system or better that system that we're currently on to continue helping those style of clients? So like we do really good in construction, outdoor living, and landscape and things like that, right? So we've built a pretty good system to where we can keep those customers happy, keep new customers in that industry coming back, and get them talking about us and stuff. And then the other one is retail, and a new one that we want to go into is sports. I think more on the entertainment side, but that's a new one that we're going to try to dive into. Feel like it's a good industry for sure. Yeah. Questions? Any questions? Anything? Nothing yet? Okay.
Nothing yet.
Brad, how do you utilize any media to influence people to come and shop with you?
For us, honestly, like Facebook has been like a huge win for us. We've played around with a few other things, and we do get some other ones that, help. I would say that, and then just good old Google search, right? There are some times where folks pass by, and we are 4 minutes off of Interstate 40. We are the closest coffee shop off of Interstate 40 in the Hickory, North Carolina area. So that gives us a lot of opportunity for those who are traveling between places like Asheville and Charlotte and Winston and all these other larger cities. And as I joke, we're an hour away, and an hour away is when you start getting tired and want coffee. So Google's very handy for that. But as far as just word of mouth and getting people's attention, I get more folks who say, oh, friends posted this on Facebook, or I saw a Facebook post, or I saw, whatever, than anything. We are about to do kind of a relaunch of our business. And when we do that, we hope to maybe do like a something with the local newspaper and some things like that as well. But I would definitely say, man, the occasional boosted post or Facebook ad or similar type of situations has been very valuable and well timed. I usually try to set one up. We open from 6:30 a.m. So I'll often try to have something hitting Facebook around 5:57, and I do it just off time. I don't want to do it at 6 when anybody else might be doing 6. I want to be 3 minutes ahead of them. I'm very cognizant about that, and I kind of do the same thing around lunch. I know a lot of folks here take a very generic 12 o'clock lunch or 11:30 lunch, so usually about 11:27. I'll have another one hit just a little bit before 30 minutes or so before they're hitting the lunch break, so that it's hopefully still close enough to the top of their feed. When they do jump on their lunch break, it's a quick reminder to grab something, after they grab their lunch. So, and that's been pretty effective a lot of times. And then, of course, the kind of coupled with that, nothing you'd probably be surprised about, people love people, right? So if I can make sure the post includes a person and a new drink or something in their hand, it's always way more effective than just some, commentary.
Creating some connections. And I had a quick question. Do you move around quite a bit? Or usually?
I never move around.
Okay.
We are not considered, we did not design this to be a mobile unit. We designed to be mobile if we have to. So we are a standalone coffee shop in the camper, and it's about to become even more standalone in the design with some outdoor seating and stuff.
Gotcha. I forgot what we were talking. I don't remember. I think I was talking to Braden about it. I thought you guys moved around quite a bit, and I thought it'd be cool to almost have like maybe some sort of campaign that you did where you travel and then like you set up that travel date. And so like you post about it and you have people know that you're traveling to certain locations and setting up at certain times.
So that's the traditional food truck model. And we have a lot of food trucks and trailers and coffee trucks and trailers and different things around the Hickory area, and they do it. But most of them are not doing it full time. So people are kind of looking out for them on that couple of days a week, and they create that following. That was never what we intended. The whole reason why we wanted a brick and mortar space was we wanted to create a gathering space for the community. We really wanted a place where people could rely on us, know that we were going to be there, bring friends, hang out, get people together. And we're starting to see that a lot more now. And that's why we want to create this outdoor like seating kind of space with umbrellas and other things around the camper, because we want to create that even more. I tell people all the time, that was just, if I wanted, the design of our trailer would have to be completely different. And the camper trailer, what I remind people is that it has 2 slide outs, or some people call them bump outs, but that literally span almost the entire 30 feet of the trailer, and they come completely out. We have a bookshelf with games and books. Again, everything is loose, right? So if we do anything, all of that, all the decor, all the SERPs, nothing is in racks that are mounted. So to pack up is at least an hour and a half, and to set up is at least an hour and a half. And if we are on a hot day, we have to have a 50 amp generator, and there's no place for me to put that currently in our current setup to travel with. So nothing about our setup, unfortunately, is set up for that kind of design. It really is set up so that we are just like any other local coffee shop where you always can depend on us, always know we're there. And we have our regulars. We actually do drive-up service, and it's about to have an actual drive-through setup, which is really cool. But we have talked about down the road getting a smaller camper with our sort of camper logo printed on the whole camper, and creating something that could travel to events, because we get a lot of requests too.
What's been the most difficult thing? What's the struggle, man? Like
getting people to know what we are and who we are. We're very unique. So you get people who are literally intimidated to walk into a camper, because for them, it's like walking into someone's home.
Right.
Yes, it's branded. Yes, it says Campground Coffee all over it. I still get people who are like, I didn't know what you were. And I'm like, in the back of my mind, because of the way I think, and of course I've been around marketing stuff my whole life, so my brain works differently because I'm always thinking about this stuff. So I don't see it like the normal layman person walking off the street. I just literally cannot. So I think to myself, I literally have a giant logo on the side that looks like a coffee camper with a handle and steam coming out of it. I have Campground Coffee with a coffee mug and a camper, like everything that I think would make it pretty obvious. And we actually have a pretty cool thing on the northern side of Hickory that people often refer to as the coffee bus. That's not their branded name. But I'm thinking, if you'd walk into the coffee bus, you know what I mean? Like everybody knows them. And so, but again, not everyone sees that. And so they're kind of taken back, like, what is this? What do I do? again, doesn't make a difference. The flags that are around it, the logos, to some degree, you're still having to overcome being different. And I have a real good friend I met on the Appalachian Trail who lives in Tennessee. And he's like, Brad, one of the things you're going to have to do is really make sure people know what you are. He goes, because people have a hard time in these kind of communities with things that are different and taking that step into what's different, you know?
So I know
I would say that's been the biggest thing.
You mentioned Google, I think you mentioned word of mouth, Facebook. What's been the best thing?
But word of mouth, like is more just, it's nothing you can control outside of like a few variables that's only interactive. That's only based on the interaction that you have with your customer.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but you can't control that.
So let me rephrase that question as like, what's been the best controlled thing that you've done that has brought traction or attention or knowing about you guys?
Yeah. To Braden's point, you know, the only control variable you have is your interaction, and interaction in a coffee shop is incredibly powerful. I've been really just amazed at some of the commentary I get on Facebook. Oh, their space is really homey. Like, so creating a very homey space, a very comfortable space, really interacting with your customer and letting them know how we're there to serve them. One of my statements I often share with people, even if they don't need it, is I can make you a sugar-free, dairy-free, chocolate-covered orange latte. Go find that somewhere else. You know, tell me where else you can get that.
Unique.
And they're just like, you can do what? You can make a what, right? And so, letting people know I use real extracts, not syrups in every single drink. Some syrups, I do use some syrups, but we have some very unique stuff. Well, that makes people want to bring other people back, especially the friend that needs sugar-free. And I've heard that, certain chains are no longer serving sugar-free syrups anymore.
There's some good coffee shops too that don't have caffeine-free or sugar-free.
Right, and that's the other thing. It's like we have a really good. We have not caffeine free, but we have a really good decaf espresso, and I serve a lot of decaf espresso based drinks. We do homemade cold foams that are flavored, very uniquely. So, that I think brings people back. I have had one of my favorites was a lady who had never been, met a friend there, and loved it so much she went home after they met, got her daughter, and brought her right back.
Oh,
so a lot of that is in that experience that you give them.
That's cool.
And it's one of the, it's one of those hard things to train, right? Like the young lady who's working for us right now, Alexis, who's there right now for me, she's, great. And that's the biggest thing is I'm looking for a person, not just a barista, not just someone who's going to throw stuff in a cup, right? You need people to reach people. Yep. And again, that's why we're not a traveling food truck, because you don't reach people and change communities and really impact folks when you're always on the move. You just can't. But when you can be in a space like that, you can. And I've told individuals, I said, our goal is to change the trajectory of people's day. So when somebody comes in the morning and they've had a rough night or the day before was really hard, but I can change their day through the interaction and the coffee, then that's going to do what? That's going to impact the coworker, and then the coworker is going to come in. And we've seen that. So there is a little bit control variable, but it's all in how you serve the community through your business. And then for Facebook, again, I think it's timing of the post and trying to be very intentional about what we post. We're in a smaller community, so personal matters. So when we post stories about what's happening with our lives, when we're very open and personal, when we share things about groups, I have, a group of teenagers hanging out and they're playing a game at a table and I post something, people get excited about that because it's the community connection, which is exactly what we're, one of our biggest focuses, and that just builds that even more. So
to me, I think that's something that you're talking about, that interaction, changing the trajectory of people's days, depending on, having a bad night, or even if they did have a good night, just making sure that when they come to the shop, to your spot, that they're going to have a good day going forward based on that interaction. I think like some cafes do a pretty good job with that. There's some local ones, like I can just think of like Lornay's. I think Double Shot's pretty good about that. Like
Double Shot, Nordaggio's. If I walk into both of those, they'll recognize me. Like, hey man.
Some of the more
like I've seen you since you opened the doors forever.
Well, some of the more, would you say corporate ones? Like I'm thinking like Starbucks, Dutch Bros, Seven Brew. Like Dutch Bros and Seven Brew.
So copy and paste.
Yes, but I think like one of the things
that make you feel unique though. Like at Starbucks, like when I worked there, it was that, hey, you know, we have regulars. Every shop, every business will have regulars.
Yeah.
You know, so like when they come in, you want to maintain that. You want to try to remember, take notes. They when I worked at Starbucks, they're like, take notes, grab a little notepad and take notes of some of your customers that come in. So you can remember, hey, how's your baby doing? Oh my God, did your wife go to the hospital? Or I don't know, how's your dog? Like, you know, oh my God, you got the new job a few weeks ago. How's that going? Do you need an extra shot? It's on me. You know, like little things like that will like help you build that rapport with that customer. And then that's head over heels for you. They're like, I'm coming back every time. And I don't want anybody to make my coffee unless it's that guy. Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing, right? Is when people do want that one person is then replicating yourself. You know, replicating yourself in any business is really tough.
Well, I'd say too, like that's
Because
where it comes down to building those core values. And as you build those and as you instill those core values into your employees or team members, right? They'll build that. They'll want to deliver that same kind of quality and care.
Yeah.
Maddie was to say something.
Oh, I was going to say, have you ever done anything with like video content on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok?
So,
yes.
Yeah, I definitely have. I've done a few Facebook Lives. It's funny because I know some other shops in nearby towns that like the Facebook Lives are really, really popular. Here, I don't see as much response from them, maybe just a different demographic for where I'm at. And then like it's interesting because like I've done some TikTok videos that have done fairly well and we'll share those. But again, so we live in an area where we actually have a lot of people who don't even use social media. I mean, we're very rural. Half of our demographic is, you know, let me just put it this way. Half of our demographic, right, is the Tesla or the Jaguar or the Maserati. And the other half is the old beat up pickup truck. Like it is a really mixed demographic. Both are amazing. Like there's amazing people from both, but we definitely have a lot of folks who are just like, no, I don't have that. No, I don't do that. You know?
So how do you approach those customers? How do you get them to come in too, right? Like that's so much harder. Really when you have a digital aspect, you can target and put it, you can force things in front of them. But when you take away the digital and you're stuck with traditional,
you have to fully rely on that relationship you're building and built and like that word of mouth from them when they leave.
But going from outside of your personal network, because your personal network will only go so far. You got to get them in the door. So how do you get these people that aren't in your personal network that you can't guarantee that they'll talk about you? But so how do you force that exposure outside of your personal network?
So two ways. One, I made a poor decision in our signage, and our signage looks really cool, except for you can't read it from at 50 miles an hour driving down the road. And so people love the logo on a shirt, but the logo on a banner flag or on a sign driving down the road is not good. So we're actually, for example, we just got a brand new 4 foot by 4 foot sign. It's going to be on a giant sandwich board, and it is just block huge letters that says Campground Coffee Camper, and it says basically like, you know, coffee, latte, frap, or whatever, like just simple stuff, right? And that's going to get the attention way better than anything that we've ever had up. I'm very confident of it. I have so many people who are like, your signage is so small. I'm like, I'm a 30-foot camper with a coffee mug on the side, you know? But again, it's people's mentality. So for certain individuals, you've got to make it extraordinarily clear what you are, who you are, and eye-catching and for that roadside. The other thing is going to the people, right? So one of the things that we've been blessed to do is one of the sponsors of a local Chamber of Commerce event, Skyline National Bank, actually had us come and provide the coffee for a chamber event. Well, that was 150 business owners. I've since gotten other business from that. That was huge. And I'm going to be able to do another one in October for the same because of that first one. So going to people, last year we had a local school and they wanted us to come set up the camper. And again, I can't just up and move it because if I go to them, then the folks who are used to coming aren't going to have me there. So I said, can I deliver up to 16 drinks to you? And you guys just order them in advance. We take up to 3 days in advance orders through our POS. So you can just put them through and put your school name on them. And we'll just bring up all on this particular day at this particular time. And we're actually planning to set up more of that kind of thing for the upcoming school year. But we would deliver to schools. We'd reach out to schools. We know certain days are slow. Reach out to a local school and say, hey, do you guys want us to deliver up to 16 drinks? And they would take orders and we'd go to them. We'd put it in their hand.
Oh, that's genius though, because like in a business like yours, like how do you increase sales? right? Like, how do you drive that? And you can't like make cold calls necessarily. Like, no one really does that. Like, you have to wait for the business to come to you. So this is a really innovative, genius way of like, especially just on the coffee shop, average, like small business style, like a boutique. Like, how can, like, a boutique can't go out and make cold calls like we can. If I need to drive up sales, like, we can make cold calls. You know what I mean? We can send out cold emails. Like, we could drive some business now. But like, that's a really good idea. You could call up a school, call the admin and say, hey, I'm with the local, with Campground Coffee. My name's Brad. I can take up to 16 drink orders. I can get these delivered to you guys, blah, 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 today, right? If he's dead and he has some help at the store, that's genius. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, do anything we can to go to people, and I mean, again, in a smaller, more rural type community, when you support your local teachers, your local schools, your local police enforcement, things like that. Like, I mean, it's not only a good service, but it's a win for business too, right? And so, and they know you don't technically have to do that, right? Yes, it helps you, but they also see the service side of it, that you're going out of your way to like literally come to them. And again, sometimes there's only so many in the area. Really, there's us and one other shop that's up the street that's more of a little different design than us. And so there's not like there's always one for them to pass by and pick up coffee on the way to where they're going. So when someone's willing to come to them, they really do see the value in it.
We've been talking about ways to get just more involved in the community and trying to show more like behind the scenes, like our personalities and things like that. So if you want to chime in on any of that, you can at any point in time, just pitch in. But, one of the things that we do about every 90 days is we do a free headshot event. You come in anytime from 9 to 5 and you get your free headshot, and we give that headshot to you in about a week. Right. And we have a pretty decent turnout every time. It's about a dozen people, give or take. And we meet people from real estate to business owners to I think there's probably been a couple actors. I mean, just a wide variety of people. And so it's cool to be able to connect with the community like that. One of the things that we thought would be cool is if we did like these thing called content visits, where we go out to a business, we take some photos, we take some videos, and we would do that instead of doing the headshots. So like we would call up a local coffee shop, or a coffee shop would like say, hey, I'd love for you guys to come out on the content day, take some photos and videos of the shop, get some drinks, whatever, make some reels, and it's free. It's a way for us to give back to the community, just kind of help out,
On that, I was going to say, like,
attached.
in comparison to what he's saying with the coffee, that's like something that we do a little bit of, is like we can come out and do exactly what you just said. That's kind of similar to what he does. But on the headshot thing, I was just going to touch on, like, that's something where people can come in. It gives us an opportunity to network with them and them to network with us. And then they can kind of see, Brad, you probably can kind of relate to this too. People can actually kind of see what you're doing, what you have. They can see that we have the studio going on. We're trying to build that. They can kind of see the people that we have here and who they can interact with and know
they can meet
when they
us
work
and
with
everything.
us. Yeah. So.
Yeah, because that's one thing that we're constantly, and I think just being in business in general, like you have to constantly innovate and try to figure out new ways to stand out, be different, and accommodate your customers.
Yeah.
Right?
No, definitely.
Okay, so what does the future hold for Campground Coffee? Where do you foresee Campground in the next 2-3 years? Because if I'm not mistaken, you're roughly 8 months, a year in.
Yeah. So, well, it's kind of been weird. So we started right at almost a year ago, but we did a very soft launch. We actually lived out in the country, set it up on our property using a 50 amp plug at the house, and just really focused on the school up the street, the teachers and people in the area to kind of get a feel for it. And then in January, we started opening 3 days a week in a parking lot at one shopping center, where we hoped we were going to be able to lease some property and set up a true campground feel. That didn't work out. So in March of this year, we moved it down the street another 5 blocks from where it was into another parking lot, and started having discussions with the management of that location where we're at now. And actually next Saturday, this coming Saturday, I should say the 19th, is the plan to set up this new sort of space. We're currently right up against the street, which was intentional to try to like nobody could miss you if you're like 5 feet off the road, right? It's not always the best scenario though, for a couple of reasons, but it's been good to start and get that attention. We're actually on the 19th going to be moving about 30 feet, maybe 100 feet into the parking lot. And we're going to have about a 36 by 30 foot footprint where we'll have the camper turned around, focused towards the street. We'll have 2 picnic tables with umbrellas. We'll put out a few outdoor games, especially like on Saturdays or some, maybe the remainder of the days during the summer that we have, but mostly on Saturdays and some the evenings when we start to open later to really create, again, that campground experience. And we actually want to look into getting some of the like fake green turf and everything to put under the tables. It'll set up a true drive-through as well.
Dude,
so there's a lot of
yes.
cool stuff.
Devin made a good comment. You should put in some built-in holy boards.
I'll have to get some. So we have we want to do like cornhole, which is huge out here. We've got all the some different stuff. We're blessed and thankful we've been able to work with this gentleman that runs this shopping center, and his establishment owns it, because we're able to he's allowing us to work with him on a way that we can rent the space, use the space to still create the same thing in what is the actual lot, but the lot is massive, so there's plenty of room for it. So yeah.
What would be one advice that you would give to someone who is starting or has the idea to start a coffee shop or something like what you're doing?
Yeah, I think one is know what you want to be. I've been to shops where it seems like you're like, who are these people? Are they the people who just use cheap Torani syrups and just make like quick sweet drinks for everybody? Are they the people who know how to make a breve and a doppio and a medici? Like, what are you? Know who you are. Know who you are. And then I think the other thing is
I only
get rid of
doppio medicis.
I mean, know who you,
said that wrong.
but like that. And then I would say the other thing is lose your pride. Lose your pride. That doesn't mean you can't feel good about what you do and what you know, but there's some areas where I've let my pride get in the way, and I hate admitting to that because, coming from a marketing background, I feel like sometimes I'm like, no, but this should work. And it's like, well, maybe it should, but if I had had a little less pride, I would have been able to hear what my customers were really saying. Great example is I kept having customers say, your signs are too small. And I'm like, my signs are 4 foot by 3 foot. How big do my signs have to be? And, the letters on the side of the camper are, foot high. And then I was like, no, it's not that the sign is too small. The lettering on the sign was too small. You couldn't read.
Don't drive by at such fast speeds. Like,
oh man,
slow down a
Stop
little
speeding.
bit.
Yeah, I love how he brings this up too, though, because a lot of the times, like, the business owners or the people that are the backbone or that are on the ground floor never communicate with those who are actually doing the marketing or who are managing the finances or deliver or ordering the products or whatever it is. And so for the companies who can actually create that communication path and be thorough with it, who can take feedback from on the ground floor and pass it all the way up, is amazing. And it becomes a lot more difficult to do that as you grow. And so with Brad just being the owner, like, of course, he hears it and he can make the change right then and there. He doesn't need to talk to anybody about it. You know what I mean? He doesn't go through the chain of command. But anyways, keep going.
No, that's really true. And then the other thing is, I think in any conversation, right, you hear someone say something, but it's not always what they mean. So what you hear them say isn't always what they mean. I have this phrase that's kind of been a niche like thing that I've been using lately, which is we all speak our own language. So just like if you speak to someone who speaks French and someone speaks Spanish and someone speaks, Italian, whatever, but we literally kind of all have our own language from our raising, from our culture, from these different, our age, from when we grew up. Like there's different things, right, that kind of creates our own culture. We also know that like 80% of communication is body language. So if someone looks at me and is like, man, your signs are too small, I'm just thinking like they literally think my signs aren't big enough. But it took me like hearing like literally 20 people over months of time to finally go, and for me to drive by and go, how's my sign too small? And go, oh, it's because you can't read it when you're driving by. So what that person really, all those folks were really meaning to say, because let's be honest, a lot of us are not good, healthy communicators to communicate what we're really meaning. We say something, but it's not actually what we mean. And I really believe that every customer who ever said your sign is too small, really what they wanted to probably say was the lettering on your sign is so small that I didn't know what it said. I didn't know what it was. So I saw a big now open at the top, but I didn't know what it was. And so if they had been able to communicate that more clearly, or if I would have stopped in earlier instead of just getting frustrated thinking, man, I feel like it's really obvious. If I would have stopped and thought, what do they mean? What are they trying to express? Why would they say it's too small when it's, taller than I am? There must be something else. If I would have dove into that, I might could have fixed this, had a solution way sooner and had my business increasing sooner.
Or even diving in right after you hear that, hey, your sign's too small. Oh, well, okay. Like what makes it, is it the logo? Is it that you couldn't read it driving by? Is it the verb? Like what was it? Like kind of asking that question to them, getting that feedback right away compared to, like you said, waiting longer and then figuring it out later. Not letting your pride get in the way and actually getting that feedback right off the bat and then improving that situation.
Yeah. And it's hard because we are inundated with information. And every now and then I'll get the person who just owns it and they go, well, maybe I just wasn't paying attention. And I'm like, and because they'll be standing next to someone who's like, oh, I knew exactly what it was. I see it every day. And I knew what it was. The person next to him goes, yeah, I drive by here every day and I had no clue. And really what it is who, the way that people think and look at things and process information, right, is part of it as well. But if I could overcome a barrier, I just didn't know the barrier I was trying to overcome.
These are a bunch of little golden nuggets, like a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of persistence, resilience, like a little bit of business, a little bit of marketing. It's great. Look at all these little golden nuggets throughout this whole last past hour. I know we had a little bit of technical difficulty in the beginning, but it kicked off to be like some great conversations. Brad, do you have any questions for us?
I think the one question I think a lot of people would like to, I always think about, it's like, when you're working with different companies and you're working on your guys' side from social media, how do you kind of develop out a campaign based on the uniqueness of every different, business? Is it demographic first? Is it business type first? Are there like 4 key areas you try to figure out before you kind of start to tackle that?
Well, building out a campaign would typically start on, well, who do we need to target demographic? Who's that persona? Let's say, we were just talking about the campaign for Israel Diamonds this morning, right? Like who's our target market? Well, it's people who are looking to get engaged, who've probably been dating for at least 6 months, been in a relationship for 6 months or longer, and who are not engaged, not married. They're probably between the ages of 18 and 35. And they could be about within 150 miles because they can order online, so we could go as far out as Fayetteville, Fort Smith. So geographically as well, too. They're more than likely, they're going to be female. They're going to be women, right? Shopping. But then they're going to bring in their man with them to shop with them and say, hey, this is the one I want. Or they're going to be looking at the pictures and they're going to show their man, right? And then it come down to, well, now we know the persona. Now we need to build out the creative or the incentive or the offer or whatever it is, or whether it's a graphic or whether it's a video, right? And you can build that out. It's probably a good idea to have a couple different ideas, a couple different graphics or a video or two. So then you're not just like dead 2-3 weeks in and be like, all right, the creative on this one didn't work. We have nothing else. So maybe have a couple different ideas to run with. And then budget's a big one too. So like, what do you what's your budget? What are you advertising? They were wanting, when we were building out a campaign, we were talking about, Maria and I were talking about this. It was Colorado, Kansas, Missouri, Arkansas, and Oklahoma, I think. It was like 4 or 5 states. And their audience had 13 million people, but their budget was $1,500 a month.
Wow.
So it would have taken about 3 years to potentially hit everybody. Well, we know that it takes several times to view something in order to make an action, hear about it, see it, feel it, touch it, smell it, whatever. And so if we were able to bring that demographic down to that target audience, and we really did that by geographically bringing that down to just 4 surrounding cities, 4 major cities within about 150 miles, we brought that down to about 1.3 million. Okay, well, that's a little bit more feasible. So at this kind of budget, we should be able to target everyone within the next 6 to 8 months. Well, that's a lot better than the long-term 3 years of what it would take to potentially hit everyone with that budget. But then we'll build out some other segmented target audiences. So like that one was really broad. And so we'll have one broad audience to where we just want reach and brand awareness. All we want is just people to see, right? We're just trying to cast a wide net. Now it's still within people that have some level of interest. So maybe they're not, maybe they are engaged, but maybe they want a wedding band. Maybe they're engaged and not happy with their ring. Maybe they're married and been married for 20 years and it's time to upgrade, you know? So like this broad net is a little bigger. And then we'd build out some other ones that are like, okay, you are 18 to 25. And whenever we produce this type of content, we're going to target you. Or maybe you're 25 to 35 and we have this kind of content, we're going to target you. So maybe, and again, maybe you're married, maybe you're only married for 20 to 25 years. And we know that we're going to have the nicer, more expensive rings because what is it? 1 carat per year, something like that. Right. So, I think that's pretty much like the rundown. Am I missing anything? No.
To break it down, we start with the client, where they're at, and seeing where they're at, where they need to go. Then we dive into the demographics and what type of campaign we can go along with that. Then the budget, and
because
then
you
the
can't
execution.
come up, you can't really know what your budget's going to do until you have your demographic down. So
you have the
that can
ideas.
determine a lot because I can't tell you what $1,000 is going to do on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, or whatever it is until we build out the demographic. So once I have the geography down, the age, the gender, the interest, then I can know how big that demographic is. And then I know, okay, well, with $1,500, if our goal is just to reach as many people in this demographic as possible, then I can tell you how long it will take to reach everyone in that demographic. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, it did. It gave me some good thoughts. So I actually just thought of something too from for me specifically from a coffee shop, startup is when I know you guys have got plenty of coffee shops in the Tulsa area start up over the last few years. So what drove you into a coffee shop for the first time that you'd never been in before? Was it someone taking you there? Was it driving by? Was it what drove you into the coffee shop? Think of one that you went to that you'd never been to before. Like I know when I visited Braden, you took me to Double Shot, right? And I recently told somebody about Double Shot. So that shot. If they go, it's going to be a word of mouth thing. But what about for the four of you? Takes you into an establishment like a coffee shop for the first time that you've never been into before.
Yeah, I don't mind going first. There's been plenty to where I've walked in and wanted to walk right back out. And the reasons why is because it felt like it didn't feel like a coffee shop. It felt like just a half-assed cafe. And it felt like it didn't feel like this. Like when you walk in, the vibes are okay, but there's no like atmosphere. It was like, well, we have all different types of furniture and we have, punk music playing, and then there's board games, and the sandwich, the food items that are on the menu are just regular sandwiches that I can make out of my pantry. So like the food options were unique, or the pastries came out of like, you can tell when pastries are homemade or baked there at the shop versus when they're taken out of a box at Walmart. So like things like that, I've walked out. I've been like, or I've grabbed an espresso and I've left. And the ones that I really enjoy is the ones that provide like a unique experience. So when I walk in, it's like, okay, well, there's a vibe here. And some of these coffee shops have like a hippie vibe, like Shades of Brown over on Brookside. They're more hippie, right? You walk in there and it's very close quarters too, which is another really important thing with the coffee shop. Or is it like just wide open? And there was a coffee shop downtown that's kind of like this. It's not Double Shot. It's a different one. And I think it was right next to Burn Co. And I think the whole building burned down a year or so ago. So anyways, it was wide open and there was nothing but concrete. It's very minimalist, and also what's on their menu. So Double Shot, they don't have flavors. Like you don't order a caramel macchiato.
Right.
They have their own homemade flavor called vanilla. And it's kind of like vanilla.
Is that where we went that one time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So you walk in there, it's different.
But think about like what drove you into those shops the first time. Like you mentioned several.
Mine is location.
Yours is location?
Yep.
But like,
did you drive by it and then you're like, I want to go in?
Yep. I never go out of my way for anything. I just get to where I'm
okay.
going.
So you're not necessarily Googling it or you're not necessarily hearing about it. You're doing a drive-by and that's what's driving you into the establishment?
There are like probably 5 coffee shops on my way to work. And so I just started picking one until I found one that I liked the drink.
Yeah.
I didn't go inside though.
There's one on Jinx on Main Street, and they have like little to no
Jinx.
signage. And the only way you know about them is if you've been there or you find them on Google Maps. They have a really small sign, but I saw that one day. Cute coffee shop, great coffee, great pastries. They even have some retail items that they sell.
Maybe they need marketing.
Yeah, but you know, and you may actually contest to this, Brad, but until you get to a certain, it's really hard because it's not like the margins, not like profit margins are 30%, right? Or 40. Like they're closer to probably 10. And then even when you're starting out, like especially for your first 2 to 3 years, like you really have to establish a strong clientele, and you have to be like double shot, right? But at that point, you don't really need too much marketing because you can make post 2 to 3 days a week on your own. You know, so like what kind of, if you're established, and unless you're looking forward to bringing in even more volume, so then you can open up another location, it just becomes difficult to balance that kind of budget.
Yeah, no, it's true.
It's like restaurants. Restaurants run on like a 3% profit margin on average, unless they're a bougie one. But most of them run like on little slim profit margins, which is why they have multiple locations.
Yeah.
To me, you said environment earlier, or you said environment or ambiance or ambiance. To me, the first one I thought of when you asked that question, Brad, was Lauren A's. Lauren A's has set up their location to
But that's not what drove you in. I guess that's my question.
But what drove you
ambiance
in?
doesn't bring you in because you don't know the ambiance until you go in. What makes you stop, pull in, and go into the doors the first time?
For me, is friends taking me there, and I am a big coffee lover, so I would look up coffee shops near me, and then I will look at the reviews.
Okay.
I don't want to see pictures of what
And
the inside
pictures,
looks
yeah.
like. Yeah. Like I want to see what your menu looks like. So you need a picture of that on Google, right? And then you need to see some of the interior pictures because you're like, well, is this a good spot for me to like sit and have a conversation with somebody?
Yeah.
Or can I go in there and be alone and be in the corner and work and put my headphones on without like, is somebody going to be right next to me looking at my face?
So like to me,
like,
Lauren A's, that's what it was for me. Is I saw pictures, saw the ambiance. They had the back area with the grass, the turf, and so like to me, I can go there. I can go hang out in the back where it's, you know, if I want to be outside, hang out back there. If I want to be inside and kind of more in like a controlled area and I have my own space to work or anything, I can do that. So to me, it was like seeing that, and then another example would be Dutch Bros. To me, for them, I saw just like the vibe that they put on social media between the people that work there. Like back to what I was saying earlier, like they really give a kind of personal approach to each customer that they talk to. I feel like whether it's, I mean, they only have 30 seconds to a minute to talk to you, but while they're getting your order, before they get it, after they get it, they're like creating that relationship. So I saw that like through TikToks and like, I don't know, social media. And so like to me, I was like, it made me more enticed to go there and go and get a coffee. Plus I like their coffees and their energy drinks,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, but definitely it was a social media that drove the initial time. Okay. Yeah, I think that's important. Just understanding like what drives people into doors the first time.
and if anyone wants to make a comment in the notes below, either on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, wherever you're listening, Facebook, etc., we'll relay that to Brad. So if you have an opinion, how do you find a coffee shop? Make a video, tag me in it.
what drives you in?
Yeah.
What drives you?
Yeah.
Go to a coffee shop.
My car.
Literally drive me. No, don't drive into the coffee shop. Okay. You guys got any other questions?
I got my bad joke into the into the conversation.
Where's our like?
I'm all good.
Oh, wrong one. There it is. There's my rim shot.
There it is.
Okay. Brad, man, this has been a good episode. Glad to finally have you on. We had our first.
I got one.
Okay.
Unless you're already going to lead into it of just like where he's at, how people can find him. So you're
Go follow Brad.
yeah. Oh, yeah, I was going to lead into
Okay,
that.
go ahead,
Yeah.
go ahead,
So,
go ahead.
Brad, how can we follow you on social media? How can we support you? How can our followers get in touch, etc.?
Definitely. So Campground Coffee Camper on all the different social mediums, whether it's right now Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We don't have anything on YouTube, but currently. And then as far as just, additional support, if anybody's interested in supporting just us as a local coffee shop, we have a lot of great merchandise. We can ship our coffee, things like that. I always don't feel like it's cost efficient to ship coffee, but but happy to do it. We've had a few people who've ordered our coffee and us ship it to them. But we're getting ready to do another round of merchandise with T-shirts and tumblers. They sell pretty well because of our uniqueness of our design. Check out the logos and the designs online because it's definitely different. It's definitely different. And then just a reminder again, there's a lot of people who travel I-40. If you know people traveling to North Carolina, tell them to stop in. It's kind of, we've got people who occasionally make us almost like a tour stop on their trips between the beach and the mountains, which is really cool.
That's cool. All right. Give a Campground Coffee a follow on social media. You'll easily find them on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Right?
That's great. That's it.
Yep. And other than that, man, we appreciate you coming in today. And I hope all you guys enjoyed the content. We'd love seeing your support. I say that with an accent. So give us a like, a subscribe, leave us a review. It means the world to us and helps others find us as well. We're also curious to hear from you. Comment below. Reach out to us on our social media. Brews in with the letter N, biz, B-I-Z, with topics you'd love for us to cover next time. Until then, cheers and happy brewing. Thanks again, Brad.
Thanks, guys.